Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. This is another video that deals with the economic situation in Germany because I think it is key to understand that in order to understand later what will happen in autumn and then next year. Things are not looking great. The German employers are now getting nervous about the ever-expanding costs for social programs in Germany. Recently we spent or we hit the mark of 1 trillion euros per year for social programs, that is redistribution of income basically, or of wealth. So now they had a study that was made for them, and they tried to first assess the situation in this study and then also suggest something that should be done. So what is the problem right now? The problem is that the costs for all these programs are one part is they're tax funded, but that is just a crutch. So normally they should be funded by the contributions of the German workers. And because they call these programs insurances. Of course, they're not a real insurance because you're not really choosing an insurer and make a contract with them. But instead, this money is directly deducted from your paycheck, and that goes to these social programs. And what is that? That is, for example, our health insurance, our public health insurance. And there you can choose different insurers, but they're not really in competition with each other and they are not really that much different. So that's, of course. But the health insurance is the only one that you could technically call an insurance. All the other things are social programs that they just mislabel as insurances. That is unemployment insurance, for example. And that is also care for the elderly, so a care insurance. And also Sozialversicherung, that is for welfare, which is not unemployment benefits. Unemployment benefits you get a short while after you lost your job, but welfare is for everyone, and that also is paid by that. And then when you look at your salary slip, at your salary statement at the end of the month, what do you see as a German worker? You see a very large number normally, and that is your earnings, your salary. But then there is a small number, and that is then what is actually ending up at your bank account. And the difference is all these things. It is, of course, income tax, that is one thing, but the big problem in Germany are all these social programs. And we call that then Lohnnebenkosten, that is the salary side costs or something. And that is all these social programs like health insurance, as I said, care for the elderly, unemployment insurance, welfare, all this stuff, right? And there is a stability pact among the Grand Coalition, and that runs out at 2021. So so next year it ends, and that meant it was an agreement that these costs should not exceed 40% of somebody's gross earnings. So 40% is a huge number, and in the last years we have been scratching this 40% threshold already, so 39.6, 39.8, and this study that the German Employers Association has done now, it says that in a couple of years, 2025, when the peak of the baby boomer generation retires, then it will be retirement is of course the biggest chunk. I think I didn't mention that before. Retirement for workers, the publicly funded retirement pension system or something like that. Rente we call it. That is the biggest chunk, I think. Health insurance is the biggest, but retirement is a big one. And when the baby boomers retire, but we know that for 60 or 70 years already, when the baby boomers will retire. So that is not sudden news, right? But then the costs could go up to 50% now. Yeah? And the idea was always that you keep that below 40%, because a society in which all these social program costs would exceed 50% of somebody's, or 40%, sorry, of someone's gross earnings, that is a bad society. That is a society in which it doesn't really pay off anymore to work, and it's basically socialism. I mean, it is already socialism at 40%, but if it's 45%, it's a little more socialism. Let's put it that way. Okay, so and they're getting really nervous now, because when you look at the salary statement, as I said, you will see that there are two identical parts for every one of these posts, right? For every one of these categories, there is a part that is paid by the employer and one by the employee, and they're exactly the same size. And that is, of course, just a name. Yeah, you could put one amount and say, well, that's just the social program cost, but no, they try to say, oh, 1,000 euro is paid by the employer and 1,000 euro is paid by the employee, but both sums of money are deducted from your earnings, so it doesn't matter how you call that. If you call that employer part or employee part, doesn't really matter. It's what it is the part of the wages, it's the part of the money that the company has to pay in order to employ you, but that doesn't end in your bank account, that the state takes away from you or from the company, however you want to see it, and pumps it into these social programs. And of course, is it really? And in the study they say, oh, it's the baby boomers are retiring, this is the reason. Oh, really? I mean, we know this. We know when the baby boomers were born, we knew already when they would retire, right? Approximately, at least. So that's not anything that changed now, did it? Yeah? So what could be the thing that changed in recent years? Gee, I don't know. I mean, has Germany maybe opened up these social programs to basically the rest of the world, to people who never paid into these systems and who are now here in Germany in the millions and who get payments out of these systems every single month? I wonder. Yeah, and also this pandemic has nothing to do with it. It just accelerated that process. But if you look at it, the 1 year of the baby boomers, it's roughly 1 million people, maybe 1.2, maybe 1.1, let's say 1 million people. Half of that, or even more than half of that, is women. And in that generation, men were the primary breadwinners. So basically, you have 500,000 people every year in the boomer generation who retire. Now, how many people did we take in? And how many people, and these people that we took in, they basically have the same cost per capita, more or less, or per person, than a retiring baby boomer. Yeah? So we have 500,000 baby boomers per year, and we took in, let's say, it depends on how you want to calculate. I mean, the lowest number I've ever seen was 1.7 million, and that is 3 years worth of baby boomers. And if you even say it's 5 million, because it didn't start in 2015, of course, we took in these people that don't serve any wealth generation function in our society. We took them in the 90s already. So let's say we have 5 or even 6 million. That's already 12 years of retiring baby boomers. Yeah, and now comes the kicker. Yeah, in order to pay for a person like that, a low income wage is not enough. You need an engineer's wage. You need a 100K a year, 80K a year wage group person in order to pay for just one of those people. Yeah, so do the math. Do the math. I have some links in the sources down below. You can check it out and to me it is very clear why Germany has this problem all of a sudden, why the costs for our social programs are going through the roof. And I just find it very funny that now in 2020, in the second half of 2020, that is when the German employers, the Arbeitgeberverband, this is when they are getting a little bit nervous, when they were calling for open borders and mass migration for all those years, and they never criticized Angela Merkel, at least not in a way that would be publicly perceived in any way. So, and of course, I mean, the German employers, that's not a monolithic operation. There is no God Emperor of German employers. I mean, this is a very heterogeneous bunch. I mean, there are tiny companies, family-owned businesses, there are huge global corporations in there, so it's not just one group or one kinds of people or something. Okay, so yeah, pointing the finger at them and blaming them doesn't make too much sense, I guess, but I mean, someone could have said something, because they have to operate in this society and do business here. And of course, in our German system, they are also responsible. They are also they are paying into these social systems, or you can say, if we need more money for welfare and for retirement and health and all these things, then it becomes more and more hard or more expensive to employ a person. And when not much of that money that the employer pays ends up in the bank account of the employee, then this employee is not very motivated to do his best. I mean, the employer sees the actual gross earnings, but the employee only sees the net earnings after taxes and social programs. So it's a funny situation where the employer is paying a lot of money, and he thinks, oh, I'm paying so much money to employ you, why don't you work harder? But the employee never sees this money, So the employer might maybe pay 10K a month, and the employee only sees 4K, So of course that's a lot of money. I'm making an example here where you actually pay these things, because as I said before, I mean, if you have only a small if you make only a very small salary, if you don't have a lot of income, you don't pay a lot into these social programs. It's top earners, people who earn a lot of money or a respectable income. These people pay a lot. If you are a minimum wage or just a little bit above minimum wage earner, you don't pay that much into these systems. But if you're an engineer, if you have a university degree, if you have a full-time job, if you work 40 hours or more a week, then and you are qualified, you have a qualification, you're a tradesperson, you have a good salary, then you really notice this effect. And this is demotivating the workers. It is frustrating the employers, because they have to pay more and more and more to get less and less work out of the employee. And the people who benefit from that, of course, are the people who never pay into that system, but who can still see a doctor, but who can still retire as if they ever worked, and who still get taken care of by the system. Those are the people who benefit from that. And we made it very comfortable in Germany for a lot of people that they're taken care of, but just recently we opened up this system that before was only there for German citizens. We opened that up to the rest of the planet, basically. And of course, that is the game changer. It's not the baby boomers. It's not some kind of disease that doesn't really do much, actually. It is that. It is the fact that instead of just paying for Germans who paid into the system before, we now have to pay for everybody. And that is the big game changer. And when you do the math, it is a back of the envelope calculation. It is not very complicated. If you run the rough numbers, you can easily see that that is the problem. Not any baby boomers and not any diseases. Okay, I want to leave it at that. And I have some more videos coming up. Catch those Also, if you're interested in these kinds of things, because these are little mosaic stones that will explain later on why Germany is gonna go down the tubes, why it is so bad here, or there I should say, why it will become, especially this autumn. In autumn we will see all the bankruptcies, a lot of people losing their jobs. Right now in summer or late summer it's still quiet, but in autumn we will really see, in winter we will really see, and next year especially, we will see a lot of changes. Taxes will go up, social programs will go up in price, wages will go down, people lose their jobs, bankruptcies everywhere. That means the state has less tax income. That means they will raise the taxes even further. It will be horrible. It will be very, very horrible. And all these little mosaic stones show you what is going on and why it will happen. And today I talked a lot about these Lohnnebenkosten, our social security programs, our welfare programs that are all funded by employers and employees alike, and it's automatically taken out of the paycheck. They call it an insurance, but it's not an insurance, it's a social program. It's like in socialism, where the state is organizing these things and you can't really do anything. You're not a consumer, you're not a customer, you are a subject. It's not like, here is your money, go find insurance. No, it's not like that. They take it out of your paycheck, and there is one state-operated insurance, or there is a fake competitive market in the health sector. So these public health insurers that are in the end all the same. And they go back to the federal states, and they're regional a little bit, but in the end there is not much difference. There is no real competition there. It is not an insurance. These are social programs, welfare programs. All right. I hope you understand a little bit more about Germany, and if you are interested, you can read a little more, or you can also ask me if you didn't understand something. And as always, tell me, how is that in your country? Is it like that you basically get your money at the end of the month and you have to insure yourself, or is the government saying you need to have this insurance? Like in many countries, car insurance is mandatory. You're not allowed to operate a vehicle without insurance. Maybe the state says, well, get your own insurance, but you need to get it. Or they say it's up to you, it's your own risk. Or they operate the thing in altogether, and they don't even give you the choice. How is that in your country? That would be interesting for me to know. Catch you guys again later. Servus, Kameraden.